he didn't come and pitch the other night, and it was his first high pressure.
Yeah.
Blew the save, but he got the win.
It's patting his, patting his stats. Wanted it in the win
Maybe.
column.
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to get my.
Nope, you're good.
I haven't been to the game yet, but it hasn't been above 60 degrees either.
Yeah, it's your final meeting, you might
All
as
right.
well.
Call this meeting to order. The time is 6:01. John?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
Brittany?
Here.
Brad?
Here.
And our newest member will be sworn in, Scott here very shortly. All right, announcements. All right. Let's see. Upcoming meetings, we have committee as a whole on May 5th and regular meeting on May 19th. Oath of offices this evening is Brittany Haggard and Scott O'Brien. So, we'll
Nice.
do the oath of offices.
Okay.
Alright,
I think I'll just
Before you head out,
oh, yeah,
Sorry.
this is from us and the board and the school.
Oh, okay.
I wanna thank you for being a leader here with us and that. And thank you for all your work and your volunteering, basically. Cause we all know how the big paychecks go.
Oh, yeah, we know how far that stretched. Good check.
Keith, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
And
it's-
Mike, sorry.
please.
Go ahead, Ben.
I just, you know, and it's somewhat self-referential, but my kids have benefited immensely from being part of Solon District. And thank you, because your visionary leadership and your week in, week out, or month in, month out, whatever you, just doing the job. You put your hands to the task, and I appreciate it. And they're not very glorious and some very light nights. But
Especially in the beginning.
my family has prospered, and I say that my family, but I know I'm speaking for scores of other families, so thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the time, coffee, talking over stuff and whatnot, so.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
always much appreciated. So, Brad, that's your new job. You gotta buy coffee. And take them to lunch.
Every day.
It's all good. There you go.
Alright, so,
Well, good. Thank you.
All right,
we're out.
thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. Brittany. And Brad. Scott, good luck.
Thanks.
Whoa.
I will take my
Yes.
only nameplate.
Wow.
There we go.
John, thank you.
Alright.
Dan, keep watching those dimes, so hold up the dollars.
You know me.
Yes,
All right,
I know you
take
will.
care.
Scott,
So,
you'll be great.
Yep.
All right.
Call you tomorrow.
Have a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's got my number. Sarah, good to, thanks. All right, guys, have a good night.
You
so
too.
we're gonna
Thank
do
you.
two oaths of office tonight. We got Brittany, and instead of me repeating after you, you can just read this
Okay.
if you'd like.
Okay.
You just basically read that whole first part. Where it says I,
Okay.
Brittany.
Okay.
You have to stand.
Do I have to stand? Okay. Excuse me. I, Brittany Hooray, having been elected or appointed to the office of Solon Springs School Board, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Okay. And then I just need you to sign that.
Okay.
Give a pen.
And same for you, Scott.
All right.
I, Scott O'Brien, having been elected or appointed to the office of Solon Springs School Board, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Alright. Yes. We now own them. Alright. With that being taken care of, now we go to election of board officers. So right now we have the president's vacancy.
Can you
Yep.
get approval of the agenda first?
Oh, yes, sorry. I skipped that one. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So move.
Second.
It's always a race.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, election of board officers. So we have the presidency is open and any other position that can be changed at this point also. So we need a recommendation for the president's, the position.
Right, so what we will do here is, it would go off to the next person, which, I think, Ben, if you could please operate that as far as taking nominations for president, closing that, and then we'll do an election on that, if that makes sense.
So there are nominations for board president.
Yep. I nominate Brad Hunter.
Brad Hunter, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there any other nominations for board president? Reed? Hearing none, I move we close nominations.
All right, and then a vote?
Do I
a
do that
formal
too?
vote? Yes, please, and this needs to be individual, formal vote, please.
All right. So all, if you're in favor of Brad being president, please say aye. We'll start with you, John.
John, aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Oh, Ben, aye.
Yeah,
Scott?
Aye.
Motion carries.
it's unanimous vote.
All right.
And then you have the floor.
All right, can I get a nomination for vice president? Can I nominate from this, if I'm doing it right?
It'd be, you can, but the preference would be to have
Okay.
others if there are other nominations.
Is there anybody else to nominate before I do?
I nominate John.
Okay. Do you accept?
Yes.
Any other nominations? Okay. That being said, we will vote. Scott?
Aye.
Brad, I'm an aye. Brittany? Ben?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
Okay. Secretary right now, or is it secretary or is
Clerk.
it clerk?
Clerk.
Clerk. Right now, Brittany, you are the clerk. Are you okay staying there as a clerk? Does
Yes.
anybody have any nominations otherwise? Or is everybody okay with that?
Does someone still see?
Do we still have to vote though?
We
to nominate?
we still have to.
Okay.
I know, oh, go ahead.
All right, when you get out,
I
John.
nominate Brittany, hooray, be the.
All right, any other nominations? Okay. John?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Myself, aye, and Scott?
Aye.
All right. And then treasurer nominations.
I was the treasurer. I'd rather not be nominated to be treasurer.
All right, well, there's only one other person we can nominate.
Alright. Then I nominate Scott O'Brien.
That's me.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yep.
All right,
Yes.
Ben, or John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes. Aye.
Brittany,
Aye.
I, myself, and Scott.
Aye.
All right. All right, all of selection officers are filled. Ben, you will be at large.
Nice. I always wanted to.
All right, moving on. Approval of meeting minutes from March 24th. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Treasurer, you get to do the treasurer's report.
Oh.
So, go ahead and do the treasurer, click on the thing to open it up. So you're basically gonna read beginning, all the darkened ones. So you'll read beginning balance, deposits, total deposits. You don't have to read any of these, just the dark, bold,
Got it.
in bold.
Beginning balance was $1,356,490.78. There are $37,498.25 in total deposits. Expenses, we had $421,351.91. leaving us with an ending balance of $972,637.12.
Scroll down, there's local pool.
And the local government pool balance is $2,512,122.05.
That's our fund balance.
Can I get a motion to approve it?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, expenditures. Can I get an approval for expenditures?
I'll make the motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion or any, on any of them? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I'm assuming no student council tonight?
There is not.
Committee as a whole report.
We've got the minutes there as far as the discussion pieces.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or anything on it? Anything to bring up on it? Okay. Eagles Wings Charter School update?
Likewise, we have the meeting minutes from their meeting attached.
Okay.
Or at least it was.
Popped up for me, but I had to click on them. Alright. Athletic Director Extracurricular Report.
So a lot of good things there. I think the one thing that was not finalized when he put this in was the vote, or maybe he did get it in. The vote from WIA, there was several things that came across as far as the General Assembly. And I think the one that's impacting us most at this point in time is the approval of the name, image, and likeness stance from WIAA. So now there is official guidance as far as name, image, and likeness for the state of Wisconsin. The DPI as well as the state legislature did not produce anything, so that's where WIAA came across. Basically what it's saying is that high school students can get a financial benefit from their name, image, and likeness, as long as it does not promote the school or businesses that are attached to the school in some fashion. So, yeah, some more information if we want to get into that.
The
further.
awards banquets actually start at 2 p.m.
It is.
Oh.
Slight change of plans. Having all teachers here and having all students present here, there was a determination to switch it up, so.
I like that it's not on Wednesday night, just saying.
So,
A question for you, just in terms of protocol here, when Nate goes down to the WIA annual meeting and he votes on these resolutions, constitutional amendments,
yes.
does he vote his desire or does he represent our
He-
collective will as a
He
board?
represents us, and we go over that first to make sure that it's not his strictly, so.
Cause I see that the unlimited summertime coaching contact between June, I mean, that's really, I think that's a
It-
terrible idea.
Right, and.
We should talk
that's-
that through,
It was an overwhelming vote there,
that's gonna happen?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, but can we as a school, implement something different than what the WIA allows?
we can get more restrictive of that. It just gets challenging to uphold that, so.
Okay,
anyway,
well.
That's how I'm saying.
Maybe it's
Because-
something, something we discussed
Right.
because,
Mhm.
yeah, I
I-
probably share Ben's concerns that
Right.
we're having coaches grasp students over the summer for the following year.
Right, well, it's not just that, but it's year round, so you could have one sport that's impinging on other sports based on the season, and Nate and I were not in favor of that, because I don't think it's wise, especially for students that are in multiple sports, because where is that downtime? And you're constantly impinging upon their time, their family time, et cetera. So we were not in favor of it, but WIA, the consensus was passage.
But if Solon Springs School District said, okay, that's fine, WIA, we're gonna implement our own more restrictive
Right.
policy.
Mhm. And I would much rather have that discussion with Nate here as we
Okay.
push forward. If that's something we wanna
I
bring
think
up
we
in
need
May.
to put that on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely, so, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right, principals report. Bring that up here. Okay, maybe. Try again.
All right.
All right.
So just a number of good things. We had a pretty decent turnout with the 4K, 5K roundup, with 11. And families showing up, meeting the teachers and whatnot. I completed all of our Wisconsin State assessments, as that window closed on Friday. And then we've got the upcoming events listed as such.
And then you, Pete.
Before we get to that, since
Yeah.
this is, I guess, more enrollment and student base, how many seniors are we expecting to graduate this year?
All of them.
15?
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, moving on for myself, one thing, or the first thing I have up there is cloud-based security camera system. It's something that I want to take a look at here for the future and have future discussion on. Right now, our computer system is linked to a server that's in-house here, and it is becoming woefully outdated. It was created to run on Windows Explorer. Yeah, well, close, but no. Operate on Windows Explorer, which that's gone away. There have been workarounds and patches to make it functional, but it's still not great. It's lagging. The other piece of that, the amount of space, it's finite, right? So the more cameras you add, that reduces the amount of space you have available for saving images and footage, which then that gets into a pinch if you need something beyond. I think now it's even less than 30 days worth of saved video. So anything beyond that, it's gone. So
So if you go into the system and say, here's something on day 10 we want to save, is there a
Yeah.
way of duplicating it, or once you hit 30 days, it's gone forever?
no, you can pull specific footage and save specific footage.
Okay.
But you have to have knowledge of, the camera, the time and location,
Yeah.
et cetera. But yeah, if we don't get it by that time, it's it's gone,
Yeah.
so.
Is the server that we use now, is that dedicated just to the security system, or is it other things flowing?
My understanding is that that server is separate with the cameras, but I mean, Dave would have better understanding of all that piece. Because we do have the server stacks here, but once again, our camera system just operates off of that. There's no cloud base to it for further saving, so.
So I'm just wondering, as an alternate to the cloud-based, if upgrading our, and I'm not a tech
Server.
guy, but upgrading the server for larger capacity,
Right.
is that?
Yes, we can
Similar
look
to
at
that.
that. I'm sure it is. You still run into the finite amount of saving we have capable. Plus then, Dave would have a better idea of what the expenses are.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this topic up, just knowing that we faced some issues in some recent stuff where, yes, we lost footage, couldn't find, or we were unable to retrieve it. Plus the other piece of it is Dave had to get some offline program to try to obscure faces on it, versus some of these services now, you're able to obscure faces pretty rapidly and easily, so.
Hmm.
Well, what typically would be the purpose of obscuring the face?
Investigations.
I mean, you're gonna look at raw footage at some point.
Nobody could show it
Yes,
to us.
but I,
Right.
yeah,
And it's probably the people that aren't affected in the video that's would be.
that's correct, so. I'm just laying out
Yeah.
the good and the bad of it. Anyway, so.
You know roughly what the subscription costs? Have you looked at that?
I wanted to ask if this is something we want to pursue to put it on for future to discuss. I'm just laying out that this is
Seems
a
wise.
small concern.
I think it
just
should
wanted
be
to
at
bring it
least
to
in one
attention.
of our meeting as a whole, committee as a whole thing to start, I mean, to look at it at least, see what it is, see if,
You know, it's $9.99 a month.
I
love
noticed
your
that.
optimism.
I think Mark's inquired into it a little bit, it's not cheap.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a costly beast, but I guess it's weighing the pros and cons of this. Anyway, look at it, it's questionable as to how long our current system is going to be serviceable based on the operating system and the patches that are used to keep it functional, so.
Have you had occasion to want, or had a need to look beyond past more than 30 days?
Once or twice.
Okay.
So, and I know that even last year, there was an inquiry on it. It was an inquiry that was 45 days out, and all footage was lost, so we couldn't provide one way or the other, so.
But I mean, that's true in the rest of the universe too. I mean, not many people have unlimited capacity
Right.
to save footage.
Right, well, on cameras or internally.
Yeah.
If it goes cloud-based, there are other methods to retrieve some of that, but
How long would you want to save footage for?
we would definitely want to have some parameters to that, because I think unlimited is, yeah, it's costly as all get out. There, even though it goes to cloud-based, there's still limits to it, and you can increase that limit, but it also costs more, so, anyway. All right. The next item, I just want to make sure that, I informed Brad of this, it was a little bit of a concern. Nothing has come directly to the district regarding Title VI. Title VI, what that's referring to is the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It was something that came to the DPI regarding new certification practices, and the DPI felt that it was too vague and were unwilling to sign off on a new certification. They said, we've checked off on all districts, they are compliant and certified with the previous structure.
What is the
But-
LEA certification?
Right, so that's us. An LEA is a local education
Local.
agency.
Okay.
So that's, thank you for asking that question. Just like SEA is the state level. So all the states have received this. I know of recent, Minnesota is challenging it and actually has filed a lawsuit regarding this very topic. So, the deadline was Thursday last week. Obviously, we did not submit anything. I was nervous for a minute, but once again, did not receive anything, and all the other school districts in the state are at that same point. So, anyway, just want to make sure that all of you had a heads up on it, so, okay? Next one is just a reminder for those of you who signed up for the board superintendent retreat on Thursday.
I
next week.
can't go.
Okay. All right.
Yep, you don't have to cancel me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'd be
I'm
in the
going.
city.
All right, okay,
Go.
all right. I might have to take a look at that, something else popped up for me too, but we'll chat, so.
Well, if you're not there.
We'll chat afterwards. so.
Yeah, let me know,
Okay, sounds awesome. Next one, I was kind of explaining that. So today, State Joint Finance Committee meeting in Hayward. It was highly gratifying of 5 hours of asking for supporting different funding projects within the state. And there was some pretty decent representation from the school districts. Just talking about our school funding formula, I know that the governor has pushed out an increase in the per pupil aid. I know it went up to $325 last year. It was looking at another $105 increase this coming year, and then, or maybe I had that wrong. Anyways, it was incremental increases from that in the next 2 years for the biennial. I know that would be supportive. But the big one that's been out there for a while has been the special education reimbursement. Currently, we're around that 30%, and the big push, and that's been, even before I got here, the push was to get that to a 60% reimbursement rate. Which for the school district, we did the calculation, and we're talking in the numbers of about $200,000 staying within our general fund if we get that reimbursement rate, so.
Is that on the legislature's agenda, or is that just still getting kicked around as a?
It's going back and forth. That was a
Yeah,
big
'cause
push.
wasn't DPI going for 90% or
Um,
100%?
The DPI, the state superintendent, Jill Enderly, and she's kind of on her own on this. She was pushing for a 75% reimbursement rate. First year and second year was 90%. Versus WASDA and SAA and superintendents are pushing for just get us to 60%. I mean, that's a significant change right there, so, anyway. That would be very beneficial for the district here, especially as we start looking at our future budgets and some of the implications with health insurance, paying for staff and other things here, so.
Did she get reelected then?
She did get reelected, so. Anywho, that was that one, and the last one, I will have an updated policy for the board next month. The third grade advancement in summer program, that was a requirement from Act 20. Pardon me. Neola had produced a draft policy. I'm meeting with Tom Watry, who's our Neola representative, later this week to go over that draft policy and get some recommendation on what this looks like. My recommendation is that we start that implementation September 1st of 25. That means that we would have we would provide an intensive intervention during the summer school of 26. If we implemented it on July 1st of 25, we would have to provide that this summer. And I don't think we are prepared to do that intensive program this summer, so.
If a third grader was in jeopardy of not passing on to fourth, and then because and this program over the summer would help, are you contemplating making it mandatory? Well, I suppose, I mean, a family can decide, well, okay, we're happy with repeating third grade, or how?
So with the policy, it doesn't make it mandatory. I mean, you can make that decision if we're making that mandatory or not. What has come out with recommendation on policy is that a student, if they are still identified as having a personal reading plan, that continues with them, and we can still do advancement from 3rd to 4th grade. And that's where it's, coming up with the different options on what we want to have available.
So why did they choose 3rd grade for this?
The thought process behind that is your fundamental reading skills and development should be solid by the end of 3rd grade. And moving into 4th grade, you're getting into more complex with writing paragraphs and more complex reading. But you should have tackled phonemic awareness, phonics, letter sounds, digraphs, anyway, all that scientific reading stuff.
Okay.
But that was their whole thought process here.
That's
So,
just sort of a cut point
That-
that you should have.
right, and we do have something on policy where it talks about 3rd to 4th grade advancement, but this is getting more in depth, talking about the Act 20 policy and legislation. Yeah, it's the other piece of that with 3rd grade. That's also your 1st grade of capturing forward test results. So that was added into this as well. So.
Okay. That's it then?
That is it.
All right. I don't think we have anybody for public comment, do we? Sarah, are you public commenting? Okay. Personnel recommendations.
All right.
Tough to see that one.
Yes. So a couple things that came across, and one all right, one not so all right. We have 2 resignations. Dustin Anderson as our school counselor, his 1st year, and then Alana Hill as our assistant girls basketball coach, 4 years of service. On the flip side, hiring recommendation is Jessica Johnson for our middle school, high school, family and consumer ed teacher, and that recommendation is by hand. And we've got information on the bottom for you, so.
Can you tell us a little bit about Jessica?
Yes, so, and that, I know that's in the document below.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, has her licensure, but is not in FACE or in Family and Consumer Ed, about extensive experience in restaurant and food preparation, as well as personal care for other people. That is not her own personal care. I just
It's
wanted
fair.
to clarify that. So comes with different experiences here, and we'll be looking at trying to make sure that we support her in standing up classes, so.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel she'll be equipped to do some of the financial education pieces as well?
That's some of the stuff that I'll be meeting with her, just to go over what is it we're gonna provide and get that settled. I mean, we can cover down on the personal finance right now, but the objective is to have that switched over to her program.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Was there any other candidate?
There was one that was fully licensed, but after talking to previous employers, it was.
Decided to go a different route?
Yes, that is a good way to put it, so.
Can I get a motion to approve the resignation and hiring recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. No donations?
There are no donations at this time.
Co-op renewal. Track and field, softball, boys basketball, and girls, boys track and field, I should say. Can I get a
Right.
motion to approve the co-op renewal of boys and girls track, baseball, softball to submit to WIAA by May 1st? Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I know, cutting it to the edge.
So
I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay, you beat me to it. I was just trying to be polite.
Sure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I do have a discussion point though.
Oh, should have said that before we voted. Sorry, my bad.
Well, just a concern that I've heard from a few parents on, and this is particularly softball, was, and I can't remember if we brought this up before, is the uniform situation. I know, we kinda split who's responsible for what. Supposedly uniforms for softball are supposed to come from Northwood, and I've been told by multiple girls' parents that they're pretty raggy uniforms. I don't know if they, who would make that request to Northwood. I think I'd mentioned it to Nate, and I think he was gonna talk to their athletic director, but it just, we gotta make sure that we're not, leaving our students hanging with
Right.
pants and all this stuff.
I will bring that up as well with the administrator, so, thank you.
All right, sports medical bags.
Once again, from our discussion, it was getting approval to make purchases. I did go on and find an example of a fully supplied kit. Not saying that's the direction we have to go, but it kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking at for expense-wise, so.
We're not necessarily
Going
looking to
with this
approve this $399
Right.
bag of bandages for.
Right,
Okay.
that's correct. Because are there some things that are in there that probably don't need to be in there? Yes. But just, once again, getting idea of, what some of the costs are.
Yeah,
This
it
is
just
this is
seems
one,
really expensive for the
It-
contents of
Right.
what's listed there.
I will say that, this is the cheapest out of that very product. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it is,
Gee.
so, it's crazy.
Do we ever talk to the fire department?
We've talked to them on a number of things, and that's part of where I wanna go, but
I'm just
I wanna-
wondering if they have extras that they'd be willing to donate or some of that stuff.
I would say that through the fire department, maybe not, but there might be connections elsewhere. Because the other piece of this is your cold compresses, your bandages and whatnot, you could get some of that, tape, maybe not, but we can work on pulling that stuff together.
So-
This is more of like highlighting, it's not gonna be the cheapest stuff out there, but.
Right, which I'm
Yeah,
we're
medical
willing to spend the money, this just seemed a little excessive.
Yep,
And then, so 5, we don't typically have 5 sports going on at the same time. How did we land on 5?
I was looking at both middle school and high school,
Okay.
so,
That
So
makes
yeah, you
sense.
could at time, yeah.
All right.
so.
I'm wondering if there's any in the sports cages at all, because the Booster Club at one point had provided bags for the teams, so.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff we can look at. I guess what I'm looking at is the approval to make sure that we have 5 bags established. And that we can take a look at what we have left here and consolidate.
And in
that stuff, so.
reality, so I was talking to Christine a little bit, in not just, in our heads, not just for sports bags, but if she had them together, so if we had bags that they could use on field trips and things, and if Christine had a checkout and she could, the groups or the,
Well, that's a totally different topic, but let's chat.
because
about
then you
that.
could have
I
rotation
move,
bags.
we make provision, we provide 5 medical bag purchases with the necessary medical trainer supplies.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So, yeah,
Okay.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Start college now. We got another one?
Yeah, this one, yeah, I knew this was gonna come up.
This is
Sorry
like
about that.
policy, Scott, they just never go away.
So what happened, there was some and I tried to highlight it there. There was some confusion as to who was covering the cost because, once again, Start College Now and College First, 2 different programs, 2 different payers. Start College Now goes through the technical colleges, the resident district pays for it. College First goes through the UW system, the enrolled district pays for it, if that makes sense. So if you have an open enrolled student, the district in which that student is enrolled, that district pays for UW system credits. Resident
Oh.
district, where they live, we pay for the tech school stuff.
So this one's a perfect example of that.
That is,
Open enrolled to Northwestern, but lives in our district.
that is correct.
And we have to pay for their college education.
That is correct. Yes, we accept that. The requirement for them is that it's turned into the district by March 1st, and I asked that very question, and I was told, yes, indeed, the district did receive it before the March 1st deadline, even though this is April. So.
So is this informational?
No, I think we have to vote on it.
I mean,
If-
We have to
why
approve
vote
it.
on it if we're required to do it?
It still requires your approval to do so.
Okay.
Because the thing that we would have to take a look at is, are there other classes here that are listed that are provided in the district? And we do not.
So just being devil's advocate here, we vote no, what happens then?
There could be some appeal of this, so. Once again, it comes down to, does the district provide those same classes in-house? If we provide them in-house, it's a definite no. If we do not provide them, that's where you get into that sticky situation.
Ready to entertain a motion, Mr. President?
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Alright. Technical policy updates. First reading.
So once again, I have these on the committee of the whole, just a lot of technical updates here with this first grouping.
We do expect you to read every single technical update, just so you know.
Okay.
Every
Well,
period,
you should.
comma.
Do we pass this as a first reading and then pass it again, or we deal with the motion next meeting? I can't remember.
You have the prerogative to say there are some changes and we'll push it off to next month, or we can approve it tonight, so.
Did you read them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll make a motion to approve them.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Middle school music retirement, or requirement, sorry. Retirement,
Check.
jeez.
So, once again, this was coming back to class time or expectations for students during music instruction for middle school. There's a couple different options. We're looking at something opposite of music if we're not requiring students in middle school to attend music. I think there was some concern, and we've gotten feedback too about students having study hall opposite of that. Where you get into other concerns, if you offer a course that kids wanna take, you're putting your music program into a difficult situation. And that's where I want your feedback as far as a route we should go on this. this is something that we want to bring to the public for survey or getting further feedback, we can certainly do that. Or if you so choose, one of those two options here as well.
Now, is it a full year when they do the middle school, or is it like half a year? Cause I thought when I went to school, it was like half a year was band, half a year was choir, maybe it was just half a
So-
week, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's rotational during the week.
Okay.
Well, I think I had mentioned at the committee meeting, if appropriate, it'd be nice to hear from Ms. Sanborn, to explain to the board, you know, the thought process behind
Right.
doing this. And I don't know, I'm not just stepping
Yeah.
on your toes.
No, and that's quite all right.
Yeah.
That's been her premise, as well as the vocal, is that the kids were not staying in the music program, and they were leaving.
Yeah.
So that's, because we were doing makerspace opposite of that. Kids would, instead of taking music, they would go and do makerspace.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, cause I wanted to mention, you know, I'm all for it, except for the fact that if somebody's, cause there's tone deaf people out there.
mhm,
And I don't want you to fail them because they're tone deaf.
right.
You know,
And-
or can't play an instrument even though they're trying.
Right.
You know, I mean, there should be, and I'm sure they're gonna grade on that they're giving an effort.
It's-
But it's,
Check.
that's my whole concern there.
Your grading is that, how are they improving over the course of the year?
Yeah.
So,
And does she have, does our current music instructor, so we only have one, do they have capacity to now give music, individual music lessons to the whole middle school?
there are opportunities in there, so, and part of that lesson could be not just individual, but small group lesson
Yeah.
too, so.
And it doesn't have to be
It's-
instrument too.
right.
It can be choir.
Right.
Well, okay, clarify, because requiring one or the other, is requiring choir or band or both?
One or the other. So it.
So
it
they
would
could
not-
still have a study hall for part of the week.
Well, they would remain in there, it's just, or the students that would do both, they would be rotating between choir and band, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
But if
you're
they
you're
only
in
wanted
music
to
the
do-
entire time.
but what if they only wanna do band or choir, are we required them to do both?
We're not requiring them to do
No.
both.
But they
would
stay
just-
in the room?
They would stay in music, whichever one they chose. If that makes sense. So if they chose band, they would be in band the entire time. If they chose choir, they'd be in choir the entire time. If it was both, they would be switching back and forth.
So who's watching them when band's going on and they will only take choir?
They would be in choir.
So we have a separate
Do
choir
we have a
teacher?
type, do we have?
So
a-
that's the plan, is we would still have a separate vocal choir teacher, so.
Yeah, I would just make a
That's fine.
request that she
So
appear to
we'll bring
have
this
a
in there.
music professional
Yeah.
tell us why.
We'll just
you know,
table
make
it
the
for
case for
today.
this.
Yep.
So you have the instruments too, I mean, muffling through enough instruments for fifth and sixth grade when they're
Yeah.
getting the hang of things, but when you're getting to seventh and eighth, and you have, everybody has to have an instrument, and you've got the high school kids.
Not
Kind of pushing the
every,
ticket there.
but anyway.
Well, it does have, yeah, it's a valid, if you're gonna make my kid be in band or choir, and an adolescent boy says, I cannot sing in dad.
Well,
Then
you
they
could
gotta
easily
join
say, I
band.
can't do math either. I mean, there's always a subject someone can't.
Well,
will
I say
they
can't sing
do.
because of that voice change in that adolescent.
Yeah.
Soprano at the
You-
beginning
you
of the
learn-
year.
you learn-
Beginning of the year,
Count.
beginning of the day.
Also at the end, I don't know, that's what I'd say, I think we need to hear from a music person.
The problem is those were such a small district, and if you drop them off in seventh and eighth grade and there's no continuation from elementary past that, that's when we get to where, well, there's no interest then when they enter
Right.
the high school.
Yep.
So
Right.
it's almost, I don't wanna say like, it should kind of, in my mind, it should be a requirement. It's part of the learning process, the arts are important, I just think that it should be a continuation, that's just my opinion. But yes, of course,
I
you
have
miss.
no musical talent in
Yeah.
my, so it's like,
Yeah.
don't make me do that for another 2 years, because
Yeah.
it's useless.
Yeah.
I had no math talent, I still had to take math.
Yeah, but math is a little different than.
But not
No,
calculus.
it's not.
But not calculus,
It's a subject.
right? But you didn't have to take calculus.
Right.
You
All
got,
right.
there was a spot where you stopped, and then like,
Yeah, I think algebra or something. Yeah, you didn't have to take, I mean, the electives you don't have to take, but.
we'll move this discussion to next month.
Okay.
All right,
Charlotte can comment.
staff recognition process.
All right. Once again, we had some discussion on this. I don't know if there's any more appetite to look at this question as far as staff recognition process.
I guess, I mean, there'd have to be something built as far as what are the things being met to get this. And then I'm more about giving maybe a personal day versus a stipend, honestly, but
Well, there's a cost either way.
there is, exactly, but I just don't know. I guess I'd like to see what are the standards in order to.
Scott, 2 of our educators have been recognized, help me with the language guys, both regionally and at a state level.
Mm.
And one's was in consideration for a national award,
She's a state finalist.
state finalist.
Yep.
So, like, this is referring to, this is a big deal, like staff recognition isn't like coming from me. It's saying outside entities have said, wow, there's some home run hitters here. So the question is, should we follow that up with some type of time or financial gift?
And I did ask at my finance meeting last month with the other finance people from the other schools. No one does any financial. They're like, we're trying to fund everything we need to fund now, and without going outside of that. So there were not any other schools in that group that do
So
anything.
we'd be pioneers.
Yes, would be in the vanguard. I don't normally like to draw from personal experience, but since I have 2 kids that are teachers, I asked them both, and they both overwhelmingly said, oh, we'd rather have money than a day off.
Okay.
So that's just a very small sample, but maybe we query our staff. I don't know. I mean, we have some staff here. Would you rather have a day off or have,
Well, I look
money
at
for
it,
if you
it's
got some
different because I
recognition?
think, well, money you're taxed on, but a day off you aren't. So it's just different. I think everybody's gonna do it
Hmm?
differently.
All right, well,
But certainly the 2 teachers that we had that are being recognized, certainly those 2 events would qualify, I would think.
yeah. Okay. Well, I just.
Outside organizations that are.
Because the only thing is, we're opening up a door here, so we gotta figure out what opens that door,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it could be recognition outside of our district.
Okay.
It's at least a place to start.
Let's,
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking for guidance on this, so.
yeah, so let's start with that, get some more questions answered, and bring it at the next committee meeting.
All right.
All right, monthly collaborative teacher time.
So once again, this was a proposed plan, but that doesn't mean that has to be it. I just want to, once again, get your appetite for this. Is this something that we want to take a look at? And come up with some, a few different solutions or not? If the board is not, if there's no appetite on the board to look at different options, I just wanna know that, so.
So professional development day,
Mhm.
it's a nice phrase. What are we looking at that, what does that entail?
So a professional development day, there's a few things that occur. I know that our ELA work this year, there was quite a bit of our professional development time that was dedicated towards ELA standards, ELA, your learning objectives and aligning different standards across the board. So there's plenty of things that get plugged into our professional development days, but we would dedicate time towards those vertical discussions.
So how do we do it now without doing that, the half day
Right.
every other month or
So
whatever?
we really don't get much for that time, because our professional develop gets, we can dedicate some time to it, but it's lacking when it comes to the amount of time that we get to spend actually discussing across the board with our vertical teams, let alone our specials with special education and other providers, so.
So
that's
it
where
would
we
be an
focus.
internal,
It would be, yes.
okay, so
So-
no one's going home on Friday afternoon, it's
No.
dedicated time to be,
That's correct.
okay.
What would we do about the coaches, sports and coaches and kids? They send them home on the bus and they come back for practice?
That's some fine points that we would have to work through. on this.
I guess where I'm going is it would, yeah,
I'm more worried about the games and practices, honestly. Cause I mean, if you're talking one day in September, one in December, one in February, which February if you do it towards the end of the month.
what do you mean by that? Like they'd miss a game or they have to go home and?
They'd have to go home and come back for a game or go
Yeah.
back to get on the bus or whatever.
So-
Which, if it's a home game, they're going home and then coming back anyways for the most part, so that's not a big deal, but.
Yeah, so that's some of the logistics that we would have to work out
The other
with as far as that coverage. side.
Comment is that, and you could just say, I don't know, you tell me the other day, an activity for MP.
Mhm.
Adding 5 minutes to the end of the day, really just, it just seems like educationally our kids, they're not gonna get anything by that. We're meeting the state requirement, but, so can we add 15 minutes per day?
And then what do you do with support staff?
Right,
Because then, are we extending dollars for additional time for them to be in the building?
no, because it's a good question, but I'm not looking at those vertical team discussions to necessarily have support staff there.
So they go home.
But the extra 5 minutes a day
Right.
they're adding,
Yep.
they're staying
So
for
that's stuff that we would have to look at.
So that adds.
Once again, this was a way, and
I like it.
So we're just basically, you're asking us
are
for
we
you to
proceeding?
proceed to find a way to do this.
Yes,
And then you bring it back to us on the which way you decided,
different options.
or with different options, okay.
Because I brought it up with staff, but I want to pose that again to leadership, if there are other ideas and things that we have to crack, so.
Okay. So do you need a motion, or can we just tell you to go ahead and figure this out and then bring us back with something?
That would be sufficient.
Everybody okay with
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
I thought you were looking for a motion there, boss man.
Okay. All right, referendum consideration for future building needs and additions. Approval to send out requests for proposals with facility study.
All right, in this process to do a referendum, it is wise for us to get an outside agency to conduct an actual building study to determine what is it with our facilities that is good, what needs attention, and what are some things that we should look at if we're pushing forward with a referendum. I think that's just wise. I'm not questioning Mark's ability, but it's good to have an outside agency take a look at the big picture and provide feedback on all of the facility. And I think that's one of our first things as we look at our timeline to push forward. Because if there are things that weren't identified previously and we do this study and then we identify it, then that has to be part of that discussion, right? What needs to be tackled with our current facility.
What kind of expense are you contemplating?
That I don't know right offhand. Once again, this is approval to seek bids for that.
Okay.
piece.
Okay.
It's not approval of
No,
taking that step.
no. What I want is the step to actually send out
Okay.
requests for bids.
All right.
Everybody on board with that?
Do it too.
Okay. Do you want a motion on that?
Yes,
one?
please.
Can I get a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion.
All right, can I get a
I'll
second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Staff contract approval. That
So
time of
based,
year.
based on the percentage, those are the numbers there. So we talked about a 3% CPI increase.
So we're at 3% across the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, I'm like, didn't scroll up when I first read it.
So there's a line highlighted in yellow,
Yes,
is that,
that's for discussion during our closed session.
okay. Oh,
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the staff contracts for distribution?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright. Montessori teacher assistant compensation and training plan.
Again,
Is this based on a percentage? How do we write? Oh, are we on something? Okay. Never mind. I'm behind one.
rarely do we get ahead of you, John, so it makes me feel good. I think this is.
Okay, I got it, okay.
Wasn't the fundraising part of this though too? Or what's?
The,
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
right. That was some discussion of this. I guess, not getting to this as far as how that recruitment goes, I'm wondering if this is a track that we wanna go down. Is this what the board entails? Yes, the governance board would be part of that fundraising, and that's what they've talked about, fundraising for teachers. But I'm pushing this with the board to, is this a plan or a proposition that you're willing to support, and have the governance board work out the final, the details of it?
Would you have the percentage, put the percentage in there, the same percentage that the teachers are required to do?
And that's open for discussion here,
Because
so.
the teachers are required to cover a percentage.
Right, that is correct.
So I'm not seeing a percentage in what I'm reading.
It is not.
Got it. Is there a pay raise for getting a certification?
That was not, that's.
No, based
that's a
in
good
the current
question.
model.
There is nothing in the current model for taking care of certification, let alone pay increase.
So in my opinion, if we require educators to pay for their certification, then when they get it, they should get a pay raise. That's kind of the natural way the world works, but if we pay for it, we don't have to offer that pay raise. I am very, very leery of fundraising. I think fundraising leads to mission drift faster than anything, and we have a job here to educate students,
Right.
not coordinate students into raising money
Yep.
for the
No.
educators, so that is great.
Check. No, and just so we're clear, this would be, the governance board would have to do all the fundraising for that piece, so. But I understand what you're saying.
To push back, yeah, but we're a small community.
Yeah, no, I
So
get it, I'm just clarifying who would be responsible for it, so, yeah. Anyway.
Which, it's more adults shaking down kids to go do fundraising. And I think we have way too much of that, and not enough
I guess I would
academic
like,
rigor.
I would like to see a cost of the training associated with, if we funded it fully, then we would give them a raise, or if we fund partially and we give them a raise, what's the difference there?
And we don't have a raise that we give for any extended education in any level right now.
But we pay for a big chunk of that, right, that education?
That's where we're talking about with this, if we pay 75% of
A master's
the
degree?
cost, no.
No, that's the
Just the
first.
cost of a course,
Oh.
up to X amount of credits.
Mm.
So we do not
And that-
pay, if they get their master's degree, they do not get an increase in pay.
Yeah.
But my thing
But
is
that's not
there,
required.
technically, they can still do the job without that, technically, they could still do the job without that training as a para, right? Cause we're talking about the paras here.
It's, yes, well, just to clarify, teacher assistants in the Montessori classrooms. The part of the discussion we had earlier in the month is that when there is no sub available,
Mhm.
the person that picks up is the teacher assistant. And if we're requiring that, should that person have a certification in Montessori? That was the question. And then if we're requiring that, then what does this look like?
Yeah.
And that's where this is coming out, right?
So when they fill in as that teacher, are they getting a bump for that day at all, do you know, or?
They are not.
There is not at this point in time.
Okay.
And I think we need to take one step at a time.
Yeah.
Are we gonna require this piece? That's the first question. And that's what I'm trying to answer. And then we can talk about other options if that comes up. But first things first, are we requiring teacher assistants to have that certification? If so, what's the parameters to this? Are we, if we're paying for it, are we requiring a commitment to the district?
Do we have any data on how often we're asking teacher assistants to fill in as teachers?
I can give more data to, and every year is gonna be different.
Yeah,
You know, right?
yeah,
So
I mean-
that's where it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
If it's infrequent,
And it's not
Um,
only in the Montessori.
well, but this is,
Right, but
Yes.
I'm just saying, when you're
Yeah.
looking at the whole big picture, it's not only the Montessori that,
it would only
Needs to
help
happen.
the kids, I can say, if we did this.
right.
It won't necessarily help them if we don't do it. Because it could not necessarily set them back, but it could lose a day of class because they aren't doing it right or aren't really
It's-
knowledgeable on it.
Right, it's not effective, and I think it puts that teacher assistant in a bad place when they're not certified.
So, Mr. Superintendent, would a certified teacher assistant, would there be a benefit during the whole year, even if the teacher's there? Because that,
Absolutely, I think that it adds to the efficiency, because the teacher assistants know what the setups are, they know what the learning object, or
Yeah.
the learning process in the Montessori program does, or is, when they go through that certification. When they're not, they're constantly behind.
it would seem really almost a matter of ethics, honesty, to, like, if you have my kid, and you do have my kid in Montessori,
Mhm.
to have Montessori trained educators.
Mhm.
So it seems the right thing to do is require this, and then we figure the plan out.
right, but, and only Montessori has a teaching assistant.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And that's where I was saying during the committee of the whole, that in the charter world, we can get away with that. In our other locations, we cannot. So,
So I'm okay with requiring it. Just figuring out the details is the next part.
okay.
Whether we're gonna cover it partially, whatever there, whether they're gonna get a pay bump if they're working that day or whatever, I don't know. I guess that'd be more governance board for that, to iron that out and bring it back to us.
That is correct.
Has the government?
They've gone back and forth on this,
Yeah,
and
when
that's
it's
where we
for-
have to settle this. And once again, that's where I'm trying to get your,
Have they made a recommendation to the governance board?
They're split.
they are split on this right now.
Okay.
And that's, that.
So we're the
that's-
final vote.
It'll have to come to the regular board here anyway, so.
Did we talk about numbers of what we think this costs, what we think the projected cost for this would be?
Each level's a little bit more expensive, but you're talking anywhere from, what is it, 2,000 to 3,500, depending on the level.
Per assistant.
per
For,
assistant.
to get certified.
That is correct.
So it's not a huge.
4 levels?
I mean,
3.
Three.
Children's.
Children's House,
E1,
E1, and E2.
Just apologize, I should know this.
Mhm.
Is that 3 then that we're trying to certify, or does like E2 have 2 teacher assistants?
So, the way it will balance out, you will have 1, 2, and 2,
5?
5 total.
That's a sizable commitment.
How many are
But this
certified
is-
now? Do we know that?
3 out of the 5, yeah.
So we're talking,
Well, then in
2
that
people.
case, 2 people. And
For-
being that
as
there's
we
already
sit here
3
today.
certified, I would say the other 2 need to be certified to stay in the position.
But the other 2 are certified just in a different level, right?
And
Yeah. So
Okay.
they're certified.
there's
Not
different
certified.
certifications, but for
I,
the level that
I
they're
think
going,
that should be
so.
universal, just keep everybody the same that way. Then you know where everybody sits as far as where they need to be.
Well, okay. Each level has their own training.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, as far as everybody needs to be certified, period.
Okay, yep.
Not a partial certification or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever that other, I'm not sure what
So,
you're talking about, they're
right.
somewhat certified or something?
Well, we do have staff members that are certified, but the level that they're at or going to be going to, they do not hold that certification.
so who makes the
It's just-
decision to move someone who's certified in Children's House to say, next year we're gonna put you in E1?
Yeah. that'll-
It's
Where's-
been a crazy time, John, and that's what we're trying to do is get this leveled out and maintain some consistency here, because it has been all over the place.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of this, is if we're going to do this, that we're saying, this is our commitment, you're gonna be in here, and this is the duration you're committing to the district.
It only
And then
makes sense
admin
So
has
if-
to honor that the best.
Yeah,
can.
so to me,
Right.
if we make the investment in someone to get, certified in E1 or E2 or whatever,
Yep,
and then the individual says, well, I think next year I'd really like to do children's. So, and if we say, well, okay, but we want you to get certified, but now if we've already sort of paid or invested in one, the second certification, that's your choice, your decision. I don't think we need, because otherwise, we could churn through all 3 levels.
right,
Yeah.
right, and there has to be some parameters to this, so.
So are we, I guess we need a motion, but not the one that's written here, because that's assistant teachers' compensation and training.
Do you wanna do it, just a motion that they should be
They
certified?
should, that teacher assistant should be
A
certified.
requirement that there is a certification.
Check. And where I was going with this, with the compensation, is that pay for the classes. If the board is unwilling to look at how that's being taken care of, that's fine, we can push that to another time. But what you're saying is, we're just requiring that certification.
Yep, and then
Okay.
we'll work
Figure out
on,
the financial
yeah.
piece.
Okay.
now that we've broken their deadlock, they can come back with something there. On how they want to do it. So you made the
Okay,
motion?
I'll make the motion to make it a requirement to be, for a teacher assistant to be certified
Second?
in Minnesota.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor?
I-
Any opposed? Alright. Alright, we're gonna convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
So move.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Scott, second.
Yeah,
You
okay.
beat her just barely.
Okay.
Step your game up, Brittany Haggard. Sorry.
It was close, you know?
All right.
Started with an H, that was good.
I think he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's looking sideways.
Right.